Now that we've gone over the perfect active and middle passive forms, let's go over the different types of duplication. Like the aorist stem that has different types of augments, there are different types of reduplicating the stem of the verb. The most common type is when the verbal stem begins with a consonant, like with luo. You reduplicate the first letter of the stem and then add an epsilon to it in order to form the reduplication. So we have luo here, the reduplication is le, and the first person singular, I have loosed, is leluka. If I were to have a verb like pistuo, its first letter is P, so its reduplication is P plus the epsilon, and to say I have believed is pe pistuka. Now let's go over some special forms of reduplication that are attached to certain types of verbs. So for stop verbs, one special rule is if the first letter of the stem is an aspirate, so it's not just any stop, but the stop that has an H sounding letter to it. So for the labials, that would be a phi. For the velars, that would be a he. And for the dentals, that would be a theta. Notice that each of these letters have an H sound built into the letter. When you reduplicate the stem of verbs that begin with an aspirate, here's the phi, here's the he, here's the theta. You don't reduplicate it by taking the first letter and then adding an epsilon. It doesn't like the way you pronounce the word. It's actually really difficult to say it this way. So what happens is that they don't use the aspirate letter. Instead, they use what we call the voiceless stop, or the letter that is aired, where you feel a puff of air to it. So for the labials, it wants to use the P as the letter for reduplication. For the velars, it wants to use the kappa, and for the dentals, it wants to use the tau. Remember, these are the aired or voiceless stops, because if you say P, P, or kappa, K, or tau, T, T, there's a little bit more air to pronouncing the words than, say, the unaired stops, like beta for the labials, or gamma for the velars, or the delta for the dentals. So you don't use the unaired stops, you use the ones that give you that puff of air. And so let me clear the board. For a word like phanerao, which is I display, I show, I won't reduplicate like this. That's incorrect. Instead, I'll use the voiceless stop. This is my reduplication. Here is my stem, and because it is a contract verb, I'm going to compensatory lengthen this short vowel and then add, we're just using the first person singular forms, the form ka. So this is pe phaneroka, and that's I have shown, I have displayed. Harizomai is the word for forgive, and its reduplication is with a ke, and then this is a deponent verb. So ha, kar, ri, and then it's the dental is its verbal root, but we're not going to use the dental. Instead, its form actually is a sigma. It softens the dental to a sigma. And so the form is ke charismai, which is I have forgiven. And I'll go over the special rules for softening the stops for the deponent or middle passive forms. And then for therapeuo, it uses the tau plus the epsilon as reduplication. therapeutica, and therapeo means I heal, so therapeutica is I have healed. So again, please use the aired or the voiceless stops whenever a verb begins with an aspirate. You de-aspirate the letter to its aired stop. The next special rule is simple. If the verbal stem begins with a short vowel, not a consonant, then the reduplication is simply making the short vowel long. So with a word like agapao, I am loving, if I want to say I have loved, my reduplication is the eta, so this alpha goes long, aga, and then my compensatory lengthening, and then here's my first person perfect form, so agapeka is I have loved, ergeo is the verbal form for work. I will reduplicate the epsilon by making it long. A geika, ergeika is I have worked. And then epi or keo is I swear. Notice that it begins with preposition. Never reduplicate the preposition. The first letter of the stem is this omicron. And so I would write the preposition. And then I reduplicate the omicron, which would make it a long omega. Compensatory lengthening plus the ka. And epi or keika is I have sworn. If I have a verbal stem that begins with a diphthong, and especially if the second diphthong is a iota, then I will want to make the first letter long and have the iota subscript if it can. So eteo, I ask, the I diphthong reduplicates to an A iota subscript. So the alpha goes long and the iota subscripts underneath, that's A. So ateka is I have asked. What if I have a double consonant, like with the verbal root gina, which is for the root for ginosko? Well, the reduplication for double consonant is simply adding an epsilon to it. So the perfect is based on the verbal stem, not the present stem. So noka is I have known. And lastly, what if the verbal stem begins with a preposition or it's a compound verb? We kind of had an example of that with epi or keo, which is I swear. But here's another example, apaluo. So you know luo is I loose, I destroy. Apaluo is I set free, I completely destroy. So it's just luo but on steroids. It's a stronger verb. Pa is not something that you would reduplicate because that's the preposition. So I would write apa here. Instead, the first letter of the stem is lu. So le would be the reduplication, luka. So apa leluka is I have destroyed, I have set free. And those complete the rules for reduplication.